High temperatures for this Friday, only in the teens over northwestern Minnesota and northern Maine, 30s southward to the Ohio River Valley. It will be mild across the extreme south, generally in the 60s and 70s, 50s and 60s under high pressure over the far west, some 80s in the southwestern deserts. Overnight low temperatures will dip to well below zero over northern Minnesota, northern Maine, 30s all the way down to the Gulf Coast, teens and 20s through the higher elevations of the Rockies, 40s and 50s along the Pacific coastline. And looking at the amount of precipitation we can expect for the upcoming 24 hours, a quarter to a half inch over western Washington and southwestern British Columbia, upwards of a foot of snow possible through parts of the northeast and into the Ohio Valley, 1 inch amounts for Tidewater, Virginia, that's rainfall, and a quarter to a half inch amounts of rain southward into Florida. Joan?
It's time for the aviation segment of our program. We'll start out with this morning's map, then we'll get a look at the forecast for both later today and for early tomorrow morning. Now, right now we have no reports of any weather-related flight delays at any of the major airports across the country, but no doubt as that storm becomes better organized and intensifies as the morning wears on, we will have some delays. Let's take a look at this morning's map. We find low conditions with the fog along the Gulf Coast and throughout parts of the southeast, areas of scattered snow through eastern Canada and the Maritimes, then the low clouds and precipitation with the storm through the plains, the Midwest, and into the central Great Lakes, VFR weather through the Rockies and the Intermountain region, but the fog and haze through much of the far west. Icing this morning is moderate through the northwest, light to moderate across the northern high plains, becoming moderate again then from the northern and central plains through the mid and upper Mississippi Valley and into the Tennessee Valley. Now, turbulence at the low levels this morning is light to moderate across the southwest and also from the plains through the lower Mississippi Valley and into the central Gulf states, and then some moderate turbulence with those strong winds across the Rockies and into the high plains. The higher levels, we find some moderate turbulence between 26 and 39,000 feet through portions of the central Rockies and high plains, then becoming light to moderate across the rest of the plains and eastward into the deep south. Later today, low conditions with low clouds and precipitation from the southeast through the Tennessee Valley, through the Central Lakes and northward into Canada. Low conditions behind the front moving into the Pacific Northwest, and then some low conditions also through the Central Sierra and into western sections of Nevada. We'll take a look at turbulence for later today, and it's still light to moderate in the southwest, moderate again across the high plains and also through much of the Mississippi Valley and into the deep south. Moderate to severe turbulence to 45,000 feet as some showers and thunderstorms kick up in advance of the cold front, and then some light to moderate turbulence from the central Appalachians throughout the southeast and down into northern sections of Florida. Now, at the higher levels later today, moderate turbulence through much of the Mississippi Valley and into the central Gulf states, and then becoming light to moderate into the southeast. Early tomorrow morning, as that storm becomes better organized and reaches the east coast, low conditions will cover much of the region from the Great Lakes to the mid-Atlantic coast, southern New England, and then across portions of central and southern Ontario and into Quebec with a combination of low clouds and snow, and then rain in the portions of the southeast. And then we find VFR weather through the plain states, the Rockies, the Intermountain region, some low clouds, precipitation with the front pushing to the northwest, and then some fog and haze in the valleys of California. It's time for winds aloft, and we'll start them at 2,000 feet above ground level. We find 25-knot winds across the Canadian Maritimes from the high plains into the lower Mississippi Valley and back from the Four Corners area into California, also through the interior northwest. Up at 10,000 feet, 25 to 50-knot winds in the northwest from the Rockies through the plains, much of the Mississippi Valley and into the southeast, 50 to 100-knot winds through parts of the central plains. Finally, up at 18,000 feet, we find 50 to 100-knot winds from the northern Rockies across the plains and out to the mid and South Atlantic coastal states, but light and variable winds under high pressure in the Great Basin and the southwest. It's time for Weather Watch, so let's get back to Carl.
A big winter storm is getting cranked up for the eastern seaboard. That's where we'll start Weather Watch this morning. Winter storm watches for Friday night.